Hi. So, if you're anything like me, you've been going to the movies a lot recently, and you've been seeing a lot of movies that were supposed to come out last year. One of those movies being The Green Knight, which just came out and I just saw tonight. I've been anticipating this movie for a little while now. I kept seeing the trailer in the movie theaters, and I thought it looked really interesting, this whole new age take on fantasy, especially being produced by A24 when they haven't really produced a fantasy film like this before. The Green Knight is based off of the old chivalric poem dated back to Canterbury Tales time, written by an anonymous poet. You probably read it in high school English class and you probably didn't really understand it. I know I didn't. I actually forgot that I had read it until I was researching for this film. The Green Knight was adapted and directed by David Lowery, who also directed Pete's Dragon and A Ghost Story. I really appreciate the originality of this film. I thought it wasn't historically accurate to the source material, but it really didn't need to be. I thought Dev Patel as Gawain was an excellent choice. He's incredibly charming and adorable and cute. Obviously, what might strike you first about seeing clips of the movie is just how expansive the world building is. And honestly, it was really beautiful to see in the theaters. This is definitely a movie you want to see in the theaters. And it was tonally consistent. It was a little out there, it was a little hard to grasp, but it was consistent, and that's kind of all I ask for in a film of this size. Some of the dialogue was a little cringy at times, but overall, Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, and Barry Keoghan, their performances were amazing. They did not disappoint in any way. The first thing that really stuck out to me was the sound design. I was really excited to hear the music and this whole suspenseful staccato tonality of the film. However, the dialogue was really hard to hear at times, and I kind of wanted subtitles at some point. Also, I feel like the ambiguity of the source material, if you've read the poem, which go read, you might as well, kind of led the final product to be ambiguous as well. And although the scenes were really cool and beautiful, very escapist, I felt like at times they didn't make sense to the plot, and a lot of the ideas were a little unnecessary. Obviously, I don't want to spoil anything, but like a typical fantasy film, Gawain had to go through different trials before the ending, and some of them just seemed a little rushed or just stuck in there, and it didn't really make sense. And when you watch the trailer, you're excited to see certain things, but then going into the theater, you're like, why does it have to be there? I also didn't love King Arthur's character. I was researching the film and Lowery's take on it, and he said that he depicted King Arthur as being sickly, kind of to go against the typical ways that King Arthur has been depicted in other films, which I thought was a really cool concept. You really have not seen the Round Table depicted in this way ever, but it seemed like the whole sickness that King Arthur was supposed to have was a little forced. The performance didn't really do it for me. Also, having Martin from Killing of a Sacred Deer in here was just amazing. He was so good in it. I'm in love with him. He is Mr. Sexy in my eyes. Another thing I read while researching this movie was that over quarantine, David Lowery actually took that time to re-edit the film and find a new footing on it, which is a great concept and idea, but I still felt like the delineation of the film wasn't complete. I would have liked to see him mess around with the sequences and put them in different orders. It just felt a little typical and predictable at times. Very excited to see how this movie will set a precedent for future fantasy films. I feel like that's kind of what we're missing from current day filmmaking, is good fantasy. There's been some fantasy themed films recently that I have just not been a fan of, but seeing a production company like A24 invest in a film like this is kind of interesting. I think if you're a nerd, you would adore this movie. Don't bring your kids to it. It's a little spicy at times, but we do need an adventure story for 2021. I think the most similar film that I've seen to this would probably be like a combination of Lord of the Rings and Mary, Queen of Scots. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you agree, let me know. And yeah, I'm sure as I digest the film, I'll have more thoughts on it. But overall, honestly, it was a fun time to see in the theater. I thought the ending was very cathartic, although the plot did leave a little to be desired. I'm gonna give it a 6 to 7. Let me know what you think, and if you saw the film, or you're thinking about seeing the film, let me know in the comments. Thanks. There is no shallow depth of field on an iPhone. Okay, hi, this is so stupid. Okay, hold on.